Hi everybody, 11 Institute welcomes all the students of Standard 9 to part 5 of chapter number 6 Science Tissues. We have discussed about simple tissues in the previous video lectures, and today we will learn about complex tissues, and we very well know the difference between them. In simple tissues there are only single type of cells. In complex tissues there are more than one type of cells. Right, so let us move ahead and see where we stand in the chapter. This was the classification of the plant tissues, and we have already discussed about the meristematic tissues. In permanent tissues, we have specifically discussed about simple permanent tissues that are parenchyma, collenchyma, and sclerenchyma. We already know the basic function, that the basic function of any meristematic tissue will be the growth of plants, right? In the same way, the simple permanent tissue have the different roles for different tissues. The main role of parenchyma is to store food. The main role of collenchyma is to provide flexibility to the plants, and the main role of sclerenchyma is to provide strength and rigidity to the plants. Right. Based upon the function they perform, they have different shapes, and today we are moving ahead with the complex permanent tissue. And when we finish this, we will ultimately complete the section of plant tissues. So today we are going to study about the xylem and the phloem, and definitely these all have only single type of cells. These have more than one type of cells, but no matter that they have more than one type of cells, but they will coordinate to perform a common function. In xylem there will be 3 to 4 different varieties of cells or components, but ultimately they will work together to achieve a common function, which is transport of water. Similarly, in case of phloem there will be 3 or 4 types of components, but those 3 or 4 components will work together to achieve a common function, which is transport of food materials throughout the plant body. Right, so now let us see them in detail. Complex permanent tissue. Complex tissues are made up of more than one type of cells. Now this is much evident and clear. It has been repeated many times. Complex tissues are made up of more than one type of cells. Fine. All these cells coordinate to perform a common functions, right? No matter if you are having 5 types of cells, but those 5 types of cells will ultimately work together to achieve one single common function, right? Xylem and phloem are examples of the complex tissues in plants. Yes, so suppose this is a plant body and this is the main trunk or stem, and you have a thin section from over here. You get it like this, and when you observe under the microscope, this is how it looks. Now we already know about cork, cambium, collenchyma, sclerenchyma, parenchyma, epidermis, etc. But now today we are going to discuss about xylem. See here, you can see xylem, right? And similarly you can see phloem over here. This is phloem. Now you can see a small dot over here, but this is not a small dot, this is a collection of many cells, and it runs throughout. It runs, suppose it starts and it runs throughout the plant body, right? This is just a common section given over here. They are both conducting tissues. Now what do you mean by conducting tissues, or what do you mean by conducting? You might have heard in electricity that this is a good conductor of electricity, right? Or that can be a bad conductor of electricity. You have heard terms like this. Now what is electricity? Flow of electrons. So if anything can flow, right, we can say that that particular tissue or that particular thing is a conductor, right? Is a conductor. So here the xylem and phloem are responsible for movement, for flow of some things throughout the plant bodies, and hence they are known as conducting tissues, because water and food materials can easily flow, can be easily transported from one place to another place with the help of xylem and phloem. Hence they are known as conducting tissues, and they are also known as vascular bundle. Also known as vascular bundle, right? So they are the conducting tissues and they constitute the vascular bundle. Vascular tissue is a distinctive feature of complex plants, one that has made possible their survival in the terrestrial environment. Yes. Fine. Now, what is terrestrial environment? You all know this very well. So, a small task to you. You have to just remind what is terrestrial environment. You have to send this answer to me. That what do you mean by terrestrial environment? This is a homework, assignment, whatsoever you consider. But you have to send me a message that what do you mean by terrestrial environment. Fine. Due to presence of this vascular tissue, right, the survival of the plants has been possible in such environment, because in such environment you require that all the plants of the or the all the parts of the plant have sufficient water and food for themselves for their survival, right? And vascular tissue does that job. Sure. Now let us move ahead. The first complex permanent tissue that we have is xylem, and I would like to highlight a few points in general about the xylem in detail. See, in xylem, the majority of the components are dead cells. Majority of them, not all, right? Majority of the components are dead cell. Xylem is associated with transport of water. Xylem is associated with transport of water, and they are generally made up of dead cells. Right? This is the common notion that you should have in mind, that majority of the cells of xylem are dead and they are associated with the function of transport of water. Now generally the transport of water is in upward direction. The transport of water is in upward direction, because we generally feed the waters at the roots, and from the roots the water is transported upwards, right? And there are many logics about it. The transpiration process that we have learned earlier is actually responsible, or it provides some push for transport of water throughout the trees, right? But we need not to go in that much of detail. What actually happens is, suppose here there are roots, here it is a tree, right? There would be a tree like this, and there are many branches and flowers and leaves whatsoever. Now suppose here is a leaf, right? And the leaf will have stomata, and you very well know that stomata has guard cells. Now what happens is, the guard cells lose the water from here. The guard cells lose the water from here in the form of water vapor, which is known as transpiration. And what we do is we feed water to the roots over here. So now the amount of water in the upper region is less, and amount of water in the lower region is more. So due to this difference, the water will move from higher concentration region to the lower concentration region. Simple diffusion or osmosis process, you can say. We have learned this previously. So this gap, if suppose water is present in sufficient quantity over here also, right, and water is present in sufficient quantity over here also, the quantity of water is same at both the places, then there will be no transport of water. In order to do the transport of water, we need to create a difference, and that difference is created by the process of transpiration, right? Here the water is lost, so the concentration of H2O over here will be less and over here will be more. So due to this difference between the quantities of H2O, there will be a pressure gradient, and due to that the H2O will move from higher concentration to lower concentration, or from roots to the aerial parts of the plants. And from where they get transferred? They get transferred through xylem. Fine. Now let us see what is given in textbook. Xylem consists of trapeze, vessels, xylem parenchyma, and xylem fiber. So basically there are four components of xylem. There are four components of xylem, right? And that is why it is a complex tissue, because it contains more than one type of cells, right? So xylem has trapeze, vessels, xylem parenchyma, and xylem fibers. These are the four types of cells present inside the xylem. You can see over here, this is a 3D image. You can see there are more than one type of cell. This is one type of cell, this is another type of cell, this is another type of cell. There are more than one type of cells. This represents the xylem vessels, the blue portion, and the green portions represent the traphids. They are all plunged together. Now, if there are spaces between them, those spaces are filled by xylem parenchyma, and in order to support this structure, there will be xylem fibers present in between them. Right? Yes, this is the image given in textbook. Right? This is the image of a traphid. You can see it resembles over here. Right? Then this is a xylem vessel. Right? You can see there are perforations over here. Right, there are holes over here. Why these holes are present, or these pits are present? For transport of water. If this is closed, right, if this is closed, then there will be no space and water cannot be transmitted from one part to another part. So there are perforations, there are small holes by which the water will move to and fro. Fine. So these are vessels and these are xylem parenchyma. Now parenchyma, you know that, are simple cells. As this parenchyma are present with the xylem, they are known as xylem parenchyma. But these parenchyma are having normal thin walls and their function is generally storage of food or to fill the spaces. Right, and fibers will provide the strength. Sure. Moving ahead, one more image we have over here. This is vessel, these are traphids, and this is xylem parenchyma. You can see it is used to fill spaces or to store food. These are vessels and these are traphids. Sure, and they will have pits and perforations, right? Like this, there are pits and perforations for transport of water. Traphids and vessels have thick walls and many are dead cells when mature, right? I have already mentioned that many of them are dead cells and these have thick walls. Traphids and vessels. Traphids and vessels. Traphids and vessels are tubular structures. We can see them over here. There are tube-like structures. This allows them to transport water and minerals vertically. Yes, due to this tube-like structure, they are able to transport water and minerals vertically, right? This is vertical direction. The water will move from downwards to upwards in vertical direction. Fine. Over here also you can see from downwards to upwards. What is transported? Water and minerals are transported vertically. Why they can be transported? Because of this tubular structure. Sure. The parenchyma stores food and xylem fibers are mainly supportive in function. They just provide the support. Fine. So we are having four components. Out of these four components, which are responsible for transport of water actually? Traphids and vessels. They actually perform the transport of water and minerals. They are responsible for transportation. Fine. While xylem parenchyma, what they do is they store food, even over here, and what is done by xylem fiber, they generally provide support. They are supportive in function, they provide strength, they provide they are space fillers also, and they provide strength to the tissue, they keep it affixed, right? That function is provided by xylem fibers. So four components: traphids, vessels, xylem parenchyma, xylem fibers. Majority of them are dead except the xylem parenchyma, because we know that parenchyma possesses living cells. Rest all of them, majority of them are dead cells. Specifically the traphids and vessels, their cell wall is thick, right? Their cell wall is thick, they are dead cells, they are tubular structures, and due to that they are able to transport water and minerals vertically. I hope this is clear to you. I request you to please pause the video and write this down in your CW. Only this much information is given about xylem to us. Right, so four components, you have to remember the function of each. The function of these both is transport of water and minerals vertically. Function of xylem parenchyma is transport of food, and function of xylem fibers is generally supportive in function. Sure, please pause the video and write this down in your CW. Alright, I hope you have written this. Sure, so there are four types of cells. Be very much clear about it. Right, moving ahead. This is one more image for xylem. You can see there are perforations and pits over here. Right, now these are the xylem vessels. Right, what are they? They are vessels. And these are the tracheids. Fine, now there are pits. Fine, what? There are pits over here. And now you can see these structures. What are these? These are fibers. I hope now you can understand what is the role of fibers. They are generally providing the support to the tissue so that it gets attached to a particular place. And wherever spaces are left, you can have parenchyma which will store food. So this is one more image of xylem to make it clear. Moving ahead. Now we will discuss about another tissue, phloem. Right, phloem બોલવાની અંદર શું યાદ આવે આપણને ફર. So from fur we will remember that phloem transports food materials throughout the body. Right, majority of the components are living in phloem. Only one or two components are dead. Rest all of the components are living components. Right, apart from that it will perform the transportation of food in both directions, upward as well as downwards, depending upon the requirement. They will transport the food in both the directions, in upward direction or in downward direction, depending upon the requirement. So now let us see what is given in textbook about the phloem. Now this is the image represent in phloem. You can see there are many types of cells. There is phloem parenchyma, there is companion cell, there are phloem fibers inside the companion cells. You can see them over here. Right, sieve tube. This is the sieve tube. Why it is known as sieve tube? Because there are sieves present over here. Sieves એટલે ખબર પડે ને, ચાયણી. ચાયણી હોય ને ઘરે, લોટ મમ્મી બાંધે એની પહેલા લોટ ને ચાયણીમાંથી પાસ કરે. So એને sieve કહેવાય. So this is the sieve tube because sieve like structure is present over here. Besides the sieve tube there are companion cells. Inside the companion cells there can be phloem fibers, and here we are having phloem parenchyma. Fine, now let us see. Phloem is made up of 5 types of cells. Xylem was made up of 4 types of cells. Phloem is made up of 5 types of cells. Which 5 type of cells we have? Sieve cells, sieve tubes, companion cells, phloem fibers, and phloem parenchyma. Right, first one is sieve cells, then we are having sieve tubes, then we are having companion cells, then we are having phloem fibers, and then we have phloem parenchyma. Now I will make a short summary over here. Suppose we had xylem, and now we are discussing about the phloem. So what we had in xylem was tracheids, then vessels, then xylem parenchyma, and xylem fibers. Now I am explaining this so that you can have a better remembrance power over here, right? Fine. Now the way in which xylem parenchyma is present over here, in the same way for phloem we are having phloem parenchyma. The way in which we were having xylem fibers over here, in the same way we are having phloem fibers over here. Right, now this is one part. Now tracheids and vessels were the two main parts. They were responsible for the transportation. And contrary, here we are having 3 things which will be responsible for transportation. Right, the first among them is sieve cells, sieve tubes, and to support them we might have companion cells. Right, we have companion cells with us. Right, so don't be confused. Xylem parenchyma, for that we have phloem parenchyma over here. Instead of xylem fibers we have phloem fibers over here. Tracheids and vessels were responsible for transport of water in xylem. Instead of tracheids and vessels, here we are having sieve cells, sieve tubes, and companion cells which play active role in transportation of food. I hope this comparison is clear to you. Let us move ahead. rest. This is a question asked in textbook. What are the constituents of phloem? So this much is your answer, right? These are the constituents of phloem. This is your answer. Fine. Just write this down in your CW. Please write this down in your CW. Only this first point. And the question is, what are the constituents of phloem? Once you finish this, we shall move ahead. Sieve tubes are tubular cells with perforated walls. We can see over here. This is a sieve tube. They are tubular cells or tubed shaped, right? And they have perforated walls, right? These walls are perforated, jagya cha aani andar, so that something can move inside the companion cells, and from companion cells something can come over here. These walls are perforated, right? Here also there are perforations. Phloem transports food from leaves to other parts of plants, right? Phloem transports food from leaves. Why they transport food from leaves only? Why they transport food from leaves? White clear. What is leaf? Kitchen of plants. Leaf is the kitchen. Why? Because inside the leaves there is chlorophyll, and due to this chlorophyll, the photosynthesis process is carried out in leaves. Due to this photosynthesis process, the plants then produce food materials like carbohydrates. Fine. So the food of the plant that's prepared inside the leaves, and from leaves it is transported to different parts of the plants, right? So this job of transportation of food materials that are prepared inside the leaves and then transported to different parts of the plants is performed by phloem. Except phloem fibers, other phloem cells are living cells. Except phloem fibers, all other are living. So there are 5 components, but these phloem fibers, right, phloem fibers, they are dead. They are dead, while all other of them are living. So this is one more basic difference between the xylem and phloem. In xylem, all the components are dead except xylem parenchyma. The parenchyma is a living cell in xylem. Except that, all are dead. Vice versa, over here in phloem, all the cells are living. In xylem, all the cells were dead. Here, all the cells are living. In xylem, only one type of cell was living, that was xylem parenchyma. In phloem, only one type of cell is dead, those are phloem fibers. You have to remember it, right? This is quite logical. Fine. So only this much is given about the phloem in our book, textbook. Fine. I request you to please pause the video and write this down. And yet we are to discuss how does the phloem transports the food. That is not given in textbook, but I will give you small information about that. Before going over there, please write this much in your CW. And this is a very important point. Which component of phloem is living? Sorry, which component of phloem is dead? Phloem fibers. The phloem fibers are dead, right? Apart from that, all the plant parts are living. Sure? Please pause the video and write this down. I hope you have written this. Let us move ahead. This is one more image showing the parts of phloem, right? Sieve tube, companion cells. You can see perforations over here, right? You can see perforations over here. Due to these perforations in the side walls, food materials can move from here to here, from tubes to the companion cells, and from companion cells to the tubes. Now these perforations help for loading and unloading the food material. Loading and unloading the food material. Right, suppose I want to carry food from, suppose here there are leaves, or there is a leaf over here. So in leaf the food is prepared. So that prepared food will be transported from leaf into companion cells, from companion cells into the phloem, And from phloem, suppose it will move upwards, suppose, or it will move downwards. Now it will reach at a particular destination, and again from here the food will enter into the companion cells, and from companion cells it will now move into the cell of different plant parts. I hope this is clear to you. So what is the role of companion cells? Loading and unloading. There is a plant part. If it is producing the food, it will give that food to companion cells. Companion cell will give it to phloem. In phloem, the food will move either upwards or downwards due to a pressure difference or a pressure gradient. That is quite in detail. You need not to know that now, right? Now again, the food will be unloaded over here in the companion cell, and from companion cell, it will go to the respective part where it is needed. Sure. Yes, from this image it is quite clear. Suppose this is the leaf. It is the source of food. Suppose this is sucrose. Sucrose is what? It is a type of sugar. Or broadly you can say it is a carbohydrate. It is a carbohydrate which is produced due to process of photosynthesis. So leaf will give this food to companion cell will give to the phloem. From phloem this food can go either upwards or it will go downwards. It will again come over here, it will get transported to companion cell, and from companion cell it will go to the part of the plant where food is required. Suppose food is required by root, it is prepared in leaf. So leaf will give to companion cell will give to phloem. This phloem means sieve cells and sieve tube will transport the food to another companion cell over here, and that companion cell will give that food to the root. Right, so this is how it works. This is the role of companion cells. So companion cells are very much important part of phloem. And apart from companion cells, who performs the transportation of food in the phloem? Two things: sieve cells and sieve tubes. And to support them, we are having companion cells. These three come together and transport the food. I hope this is clear to you. So we have finished plant tissues today. Right, the chapter is about tissues. We have divided the chapter in two parts: plant tissues and animal tissues, and we have finished the very first part, plant tissues. A brief overview: plant tissues are of two types, meristematic and permanent. Meristematic are responsible for growth. They will generally undergo cell division. Right, in meristematic tissue we have, or let me write it over here for you. Right, we have discussed about plant tissues. Plant tissues are of two types, meristematic and permanent. Meristematic are then of three types based upon their location. They can be apical, they can be lateral, they can be intercalary, and their only function is to give growth to plants. In permanent we are having two types, simple and complex. Simple have only one type of cells, and here we are having different tissues like parenchyma, collenchyma, and sclerenchyma. Right, they are having only one type of cells. Role of parenchyma is to store food. They are having thin cell walls. Role of collenchyma is to provide flexibility to the plants, and they have which thiamidal substance in their cell wall? Pectin. And similarly, sclerenchyma are dead cells. Their cell wall is extremely rigid and thick, and they provide strength to the plants. They provide rigidity to the plants, and in their cell wall there is secretion of lignin. Here there is secretion of pectin. Here there is secretion of lignin. Complex tissues are then of two types. One is xylem and phloem. We have discussed them in today's video lecture. Xylem transports food. Phloem transports, sorry, xylem transports water and phloem transports food. આ ભૂલ ન થવી જોઈએ. Phloem નો ફ યાદ રાખવાનો તો એમાંથી food યાદ આવી જશે. In xylem there are tracheids, there are vessels, xylem parenchyma, xylem fibers. But out of that, the tracheids and vessels are responsible for transport of water. Similarly, in phloem we are having sieve cells, sieve tubes, companion cells, parenchyma, and fibers. But again, sieve cells, sieve tubes, and companion cells are used for transport of food. Apart from that, we have seen some different types of cells that are epidermis, stomata, and cork cambium, which perform their responsible function. The epidermis generally provides protection. It secretes lutein, it prevents loss of water, it prevents mechanical injury. Stomata, they are responsible for transport of gases, and apart from that they perform transpiration. And cork, it is just an enhanced version of epidermis. This also provides protection to the plants, but epidermis are living cells, they are dead cells. Cork is actually an example of secondary growth of plants generally found in elder trees. Right? So I hope this much is clear to you. So today it's Friday. Tomorrow there will be no video lecture. Saturday, right? Saturday there will be no video lecture, but there will be test. There will be a small test in which I will try to ask you fill in the blanks, MCQ, true or false. Such simple 1 mark questions, approximately of 10 to 20 marks. And I will take the test only up to here. I will take the test only from plant tissues, the portion till which we have completed. So tomorrow there will be a test. Sunday it will be a break, and Monday again our regular session will start, and we will move ahead with animal tissues, right? Sure. So tomorrow we will take a test at the same time, 6:30 p.m. Fine, 10 to 20 marks just from the portion of plant tissues. Sunday there will be a break, and Monday we will move ahead with the animal tissues. Thank you very much for listening or watching the video. Take very good care of yourselves. Goodbye.